In today's video, gents, 5 tips to always be the best dressed man in the room. The first step to being the best dressed man in the room, you have to have the courage to be the best dressed man in the room. This sounds simple, but guess what? This right here is holding so many men back because they're very conscious about being stared at. They're okay with being in the shadows. They don't want to be the go-to guy. For a lot of guys, this is not natural. Being in the limelight, being the person that people are going to for advice, for leadership. But if you know your why, if you know the message you want to send, if you understand that, hey, if I am going to succeed with getting that business up off the ground, with going for that promotion, with looking like management material, you're going to need to step it up. Now, I get it. There are some situations in which you don't want to be the best dressed man in the room. Perhaps it's somebody else's night. You're there to support somebody else. But for a lot of guys, they are unconsciously, they're always thinking, you know what? I'm not good enough to be that guy that could be the leader in the room. If this is you, think back. Why are you holding yourself back? Why aren't you stepping up? And that is the first thing that you're going to have to overcome. You've got to learn to develop the courage, the confidence to be the go-to guy. The second step to always being the best dressed man in the room, develop your own personal uniform. This is your default clothing, your go-to outfit that sends the message you want to send to the world. You've taken the time to think about, okay, for me, it's going to be a sports jacket with a pocket square, with a nice button-down shirt, and I've usually got jeans or a pair of odd trousers on with boots. This is my go-to uniform in my area. I live in a rural town. I want something that's functional at the same time. I'm always representing my company. I have a message I want to send. Now for you, your uniform, it's going to be different because you live in a different area. You've got different professional needs. You've got different personal tastes. All of this should go into developing out the look that you want to every day pretty much default to. I'm not saying you got to wear the same thing again and again, but when you don't want to think about what you're going to wear, you've got that clothing, that uniform that you can default to. The issue here is that most human beings fall into fashion trends. We don't actually think about what we're wearing. We go for the bare minimum instead of actually using style, using clothing as a tool to be able to send the message you want to send, to be able to actually wear clothing that's going to accentuate your natural strengths. We're talking about jackets, which build up your shoulders, slim your waistline, colors that make you look taller, make you actually look just leaner and meaner. Seriously, the color black can make you look more aggressive. The color blue, it can make you appear to be more trustworthy. When you understand that the color red, when introduced even in a small pocket square, can make you actually more believable when you're giving a presentation, why wouldn't you use this to your advantage and make it actually part of your default uniform, especially if you're in sales? Now, before I get into my next point, I want to share with you the big problem with today's video. The issue is I don't have enough time here on YouTube to get into as much detail as I would like. So if you enjoy videos like this, but you want more detail, you need to check out the masterclass I'll be linking to down in the description, where I talk about how to get the most out of the science of style, how to leverage it to become the man you know yourself to be. Check it out. The third step to becoming the best dressed man in the room, you've got to practice. Now, a lot of people think that practice makes perfect. That's not true. Practice makes permanent. And if you are already dressing poorly, doesn't matter how many times you practice getting dressed, you're still going to dress poorly. You need to practice stepping it up, because when you first start to dress better, to send that message you want to send, wear clothing that maybe you're a little bit unfamiliar with, you will feel uncomfortable. You're going to be conscious of everything. Oh, what are other people going to think? How are you going to deal with when somebody says, oh, why are you so dressed up? You have a job interview? You're really worried about those things. But after you dress sharp a few times, after you dress sharp for a few weeks, all of a sudden, this starts to become normal. This becomes the new reality, and you feel very comfortable, and you start to reap the huge benefits of dressing up for opportunity. Because when you look like opportunity should come its way to you, it does. All of a sudden, people start saying, hey, would you like to, maybe you get invited to be a part of this group, part of this project, all because you look the part of a successful individual. And here's the thing is when you look back a year later, you're going to kind of laugh at some of the outfits, some of the looks that you went for, but that's fine because you put in the reps. You made those mistakes. When you practice, you fall down a few times, but you pick yourself up, and cumulatively over the period of a week, of months, of the year, all of a sudden you're going to see a huge improvement. The next tip to being the best dressed man in the room, make dressing sharp easier than dressing like crap. Seriously, if dressing well is difficult for you, you may be able to power through it for a few days, but eventually you're going to have that morning that everything's going to go wrong and you're going to go back to your old standard. All of a sudden, you're going to wear that clothing, which is easy to find. So the way to overcome this is to put that clothing in the back of the closet and to put the new uniform, that new look, everything, lay it out the night before. When you do this, when you lay out your clothing, your parents actually probably taught you to do this, you have made it incredibly easy. Everything is already right there. This step, gents, is all about habits, and you want to try to work to get rid of the bad habits, such as whenever you pull your clothing out of the laundry, leaving it in the laundry basket versus putting things away. After you wear nice shoes, shine them after wearing them versus thinking that you're going to shine them right before you wear them because you're not going to have time to do that. The next tip to always be the best dressed man in the room, nail the style pyramid. We're talking about fit, function, and fabric. So when it comes to fit, everything that you put on your body when it comes to clothing needs to fit. And if it doesn't fit perfectly, you want to take it to get it adjusted because every body type can have clothing adjusted to fit it better. And all of a sudden, this is going to accentuate your natural strengths versus actually focusing in and drawing attention to your weaknesses. Don't ever buy anything that even if it's 90% off, if it doesn't fit you or it can't be adjusted to fit, really you're going to want to pass on it. Now, with the function, this is choosing the right clothing for the right job. And I'm all about sports jackets, but there's so many different options out there, especially for a lot of you guys that want to go casual. If you're into street style, if you're into just more of a casual look because that's your workplace, you work for a tech company out in San Francisco, whatever it may be, understand that you want to pay attention to the function of the clothing because it always is sending a message that you want to send. Again, I'm not saying that you got to wear a full-on suit, but I am saying pay attention to that environment and make sure that you wear the appropriate clothing for the right situation. Now, when it comes to fabric, I always put this last in the style pyramid because it's the one area that I think you can compromise on initially. So if you're just graduating school and you're looking at suits, okay, you buy a $100 or $200 suit that you get adjusted, you nail the fit, you make sure it's functionally, it's the right design. You go for a navy suit that's a classic overall look in the terms of the style. But the fabric you compromise. You get a 50% wool, 50% synthetic. This is perfectly fine. What you're going to do is you're going to actually be able to find that at a lower price. But once you start to make some money, let's say you've been a consultant now for a few years, the money's starting to roll in, you want to save up and as soon as possible, upgrade that fabric. So to be honest, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the style pyramid. And if you are getting started with transforming your image, or you've watched my videos for a while, but you have not watched this one, guys, you've got to know the style pyramid. Click on this video. I go into a lot more detail about fit, function, and fabric and why those three things are so important to building your wardrobe.